Kirk Douglas was one of the most celebrated actors of Hollywood's golden age, known for his intense performances in films like Spartacus and Paths of Glory. With his chiseled features and commanding presence, he became a symbol of strength and resilience in the industry. But behind the scenes, Douglas had a reputation for being ruthless, controlling, and allegedly abusive. One of the most disturbing allegations tied to Douglas came from actress Natalie Wood's sister, who claimed he assaulted the young starlet in the 1950s. While Douglas never addressed the accusation publicly, it remains a dark cloud over his legacy. Beyond personal controversies, Douglas was also known for his fierce temper and aggressive behavior on set. He clashed with directors, intimidated co-stars, and often used his power to get what he wanted. While he was undeniably a talented actor and a key player in breaking the Hollywood blacklist, his off-screen persona was far from heroic. Was Kirk Douglas a legend? Absolutely. But his legacy, like many in Hollywood, is tainted by whispers of cruelty and scandal. Mickey Rooney was one of Hollywood's most beloved child stars, rising to fame in the 1930s with his role as Andy Hardy. With his boyish charm and energetic performances, he became one of the highest-paid actors of his time. However, behind the wholesome image was a man plagued by personal demons and a reputation for explosive behavior. Rooney was known for his volatile temper and mistreatment of those around him. He was married 8 times, with multiple ex-wives accusing him of being controlling, unfaithful, and emotionally abusive. Some even alleged physical violence. His gambling addiction and reckless spending also left him financially ruined multiple times, despite earning millions throughout his career. On set, Rooney could be difficult to work with. He clashed with directors and co-stars, often letting his ego get in the way. Later in life, his own stepson was accused of elder abuse, mismanaging Rooney's finances, and keeping him in isolation. An ironic twist for a man who once dominated Hollywood. While Mickey Rooney remains a legendary figure in film history, his off-screen behavior tells a much darker story. Faye Dunaway was one of the most celebrated actresses of Hollywood's golden age, known for her roles in classics like Bonnie and Clyde, 1967, and Chinatown, 1974. However, behind her on-screen brilliance was a reputation for being one of the most difficult and abusive stars in the industry. Dunaway was infamous for her explosive temper, controlling behavior, and mistreatment of co-stars, directors, and even personal staff. On the set of Mommy Dearest, 1981, she reportedly tormented the cast and crew, embodying the abusive persona of Joan Crawford both on and off-screen. Some co-stars even refused to work with her again. One of the most disturbing stories came from her personal life. Dunaway's adopted son, Liam O'Neill, later accused her of severe physical and emotional abuse, detailing incidents of being slapped, screamed at, and controlled. Her career eventually declined, not just because of age, but because Hollywood grew tired of her unpredictable outbursts and difficult personality. Despite her undeniable talent, Faye Dunaway's legacy is tarnished by her reputation as one of Hollywood's most feared divas. Orson Welles. Orson Welles was a cinematic mastermind, best known for Citizen Kane, 1941, a film often regarded as the greatest of all time. A visionary director, writer, and actor, Welles revolutionized Hollywood with his storytelling techniques. But behind the brilliance lay a man consumed by arrogance, manipulation, and cruelty. Welles was infamous for his massive ego, treating colleagues and collaborators as mere tools to serve his creative vision. He frequently clashed with studio executives, directors, and co-stars, belittling and even sabotaging those he viewed as inferior. Many who worked under him described him as overbearing and emotionally abusive. His personal relationships were no better. Welles was known to be unfaithful to his wives, including actress Rita Hayworth, whom he publicly humiliated with his affairs. His manipulative behavior extended to friends, using them when convenient and discarding them when they no longer served his interests. Despite his undeniable genius, Wells' inability to maintain relationships or work within the Hollywood system led to his downfall. He spent his later years struggling to secure funding for his films, isolated from the industry he once ruled. His legacy remains a mix of groundbreaking innovation and toxic arrogance. Errol Flynn was the ultimate silver screen adventurer, known for his charismatic performances in films like The Adventures of Robin Hood and Captain Blood. With his striking looks and effortless charm, he became one of the biggest stars of Hollywood's golden age. But behind the scenes, Flynn was entangled in a life of scandal, excess, and controversy. His reputation as a womanizer was legendary, but it went far beyond harmless flirtation. He was accused of pursuing underage girls, leading to a highly publicized statutory rape trial in 1943. Though he was acquitted, the accusations followed him for the rest of his life. Flynn also had a destructive addiction to alcohol and drugs, which contributed to his erratic behavior and early decline. On set, he was often unprofessional, showing up drunk or refusing to take direction. He embraced a reckless, self-indulgent lifestyle, which ultimately led to his downfall. Despite his undeniable talent and screen presence, Flynn's personal life was riddled with dark secrets, making him one of Hollywood's most controversial figures. Peter Sellers was a comedic legend, best known for his brilliant performances in the Pink Panther series and Dr. Strangelove. His ability to transform into wildly different characters made him one of the most versatile actors of his time. But behind his comedic genius lay a deeply troubled man with a volatile personality. Sellers was notoriously difficult to work with. He would frequently turn against friends, colleagues, and even family members without warning. His mood swings and erratic behavior were so extreme that directors and co-stars often dreaded working with him. He had a history of being emotionally abusive to his wives, including actress Britt Ekland, whom he reportedly tormented throughout their marriage. His ego was enormous. He believed himself to be above everyone else in Hollywood and would demand absolute control over his projects. He could be cruel and manipulative, using his charm to get what he wanted, and then discarding people once they no longer served his interests. Despite his comedic brilliance, Sellers' personal demons ultimately took a toll on his health. His life was filled with failed relationships, professional feuds, and self-destructive habits, proving that even the funniest faces in Hollywood could hide the darkest personalities. Milton Berle, often called Mr. Television, was a pioneer of early TV comedy. His quick wit and larger-than-life persona made him a household name, dominating the 1950s with his hit show Texaco Star Theater. But behind his comedic charm, Berle had a reputation for being aggressive, egotistical, and a notorious bully. Known for his razor-sharp insults, Berle didn't just joke around. He humiliated people. He was infamous for stealing jokes from fellow comedians and taking credit for their work. Younger comics feared him, knowing that if they crossed him, he could ruin their careers. He was also a known womanizer, boasting about his many affairs and making inappropriate advances toward female co-stars and colleagues. His arrogance extended beyond Hollywood. He often demanded special treatment and would lash out at anyone who didn't comply with his wishes. His temper was legendary, and he had no problem using his influence to sabotage those he disliked. Despite his undeniable contributions to comedy, Berle's mean-spirited antics left behind a legacy tainted by controversy. While he may have been a king of early television, behind the cameras, he was a ruthless, egotistical tyrant who thrived on making others feel small. Wallace Beery was one of Hollywood's biggest stars during the Golden Age, known for his roles in films like The Champ and Treasure Island. On screen, he often played lovable roughnecks and fatherly figures, but behind the scenes, he was anything but kind. Beery was notorious for his violent temper and cruel behavior. He was known to physically attack co-stars, crew members, and even fans. Reports suggest that he was involved in the death of comedian Ted Healy, the man who founded the Three Stooges. Witnesses claimed Beery, along with studio executives and other actors, beat Healy so badly that he later died from his injuries. Though MGM allegedly sent Beery away to Europe for a short time to avoid scandal, the accusations never faded. Aside from his violent outbursts, Beery was also abusive toward women. Co-stars described him as rude, controlling, and difficult to work with. He reportedly took pleasure in intimidating and belittling younger actors, especially those he saw as competition. Despite being a box office success, Wallace Beery's off-screen reputation was one of fear and cruelty. Hollywood may have celebrated his performances, but those who knew him personally remembered him as a man with a violent streak and a complete lack of remorse. Bing Crosby was the ultimate symbol of charm and warmth in Hollywood's golden age. With his smooth voice and easygoing persona, he won audiences over in films like White Christmas and Going My Way. But behind closed doors, the beloved crooner had a reputation far removed from his public image. Crosby was known for being a strict disciplinarian at home, especially toward his children. His son, Gary Crosby, later revealed in a memoir that Bing was a physically and emotionally abusive father. According to Gary, his father's punishments were severe. Beatings with belts and verbal humiliation were common. Bing expected perfection from his children, and any mistake was met with cold, calculated punishment. His personal relationships weren't much better. Crosby had a reputation for being emotionally distant, and despite his clean-cut image, he was rumored to have affairs throughout his marriages. He was also known for his ruthless business tactics, often cutting off friends and colleagues if they no longer served his interests. While the world remembers Bing Crosby for his timeless music and iconic films, those who knew him personally saw a different side. A man whose kindness was reserved for the screen while his private life was ruled by discipline, control, and cruelty. Henry Fonda was one of Hollywood's most respected actors, known for his roles in classics like 12 Angry Men and The Grapes of Wrath. He embodied integrity and righteousness on screen, often playing the moral compass of his films. But in reality, Fonda was a distant, emotionally unavailable, and at times cruel figure, especially to those closest to him. Fonda was notorious for his cold and detached demeanor. His children, including actress Jane Fonda, described him as an emotionally absent father who showed little affection. Jane once revealed that she spent most of her life trying to earn his approval, but he rarely expressed any warmth or praise. His perfectionism made him difficult to please, and his demanding nature extended beyond his family to his colleagues. In his personal relationships, Fonda struggled with intimacy. He was married 5 times, and his relationships often ended due to his emotional detachment and unwillingness to engage in deep personal connections. His wives described him as controlling and uncommunicative, rarely showing vulnerability or empathy. Despite his on-screen legacy as a noble and heroic figure, Henry Fonda's real-life persona was far from warm. He was a man driven by discipline and perfection, but at the cost of deep and meaningful relationships.